Hello YouTube and welcome to another review. This review is going to be a bit out of the ordinary because I'm going to review Freddie Wong's video game High School. First of all, I should probably explain that I love his stuff. I think they're amazingly put together. You can really see the effort they put into everything. So I was pretty hyped up when I heard that he was doing a feature-length project. That said, I think it's a little unfair to review this like a normal movie. This wasn't a big budget production with a couple bazillion dollars behind it. The whole damn thing was made for no more than 250 grand. So comparing this with big budget blockbusters is just rude. So I'm not gonna go as hard on this as I usually would, but in a normal fashion. So, let's start with the story. This is one every other high school movie has, so nothing really new here. A dweeby guy goes to a new school. It takes him about 3 milliseconds to fall in love with the hottest chick around, who is of course dating the biggest bully in the school, who sets the entire school up against our dweeby guy, who in turn is only supported by his two quirky friends, and the dweeby guy and the bully have to have an epic showdown. See? Told you it's nothing new. It will inevitably turn off some people, but for me it does just enough to make it feel refreshing. Because what VGHS does is create this world where gaming is more naturalized than it is in our own. For me, that is usually the hardest part of buying a movie, and they really nailed it here. Of course, it also leads to the most obvious conclusion ever. This was made by geeks. You could basically draw that conclusion just from the title, but still, you get sucked in pretty quick, and the whole idea of a school for gaming feels a lot less stupid in this than it does if you say it out loud. With the story this traditional characters are inevitable. Like I said, dweeby guy, hot girlfriend, big douche, quirky friends. There's actually two that feel like they're a step above the usual high school mode. One is the bully, the law. Usually the guy who is appointed to that role has no real reason to be a douche outside of being a douche. Here, he's actually the best player in the school. And because of this world they create, it makes a lot more sense why he is the cool guy and why the whole school is rooting for him. There's also a very clear reason for him to be bully against Brian. He got humiliated by him on national television. Ouch. And the other one is the hot girlfriend, Jenny Matrix. Brian and her have an easygoing chemistry, which is pretty rare in its own way, but the main reason she feels refreshing is because she is a lot more supportive than usual in this sort of stuff. Come to think of it, Matrix is actually the most interesting character, because she has the best character arc. She goes from being flat out sarcastic,
personally I think it's a huge waste of time, but it's tradition,
to actually pretty supportive.
What are you doing here?
saving your ass.
The teachers are also a lot of fun. The dean is given quite a lot of screen time, but that's fine. He comes off as a stern, hard-as-nails, dyed-in-the-wool professional. It also helps that he's being played by the guy from Epic Mealtime. He easily steals every scene he's in. And they do resort to stereotypes like this ace is the regular bored teacher, but he's still funny. But let's harp on the world a little more. They spend quite a lot of time actually playing the games, of course, but they do it in a very compelling way. Rather than using existing games, they went through the trouble of making their main characters the avatars they play in the games. This means they can sail around all the brown, grey and too dark to make out that has been plaguing recent video games. The video game avatars don't appear to be very new in ordinary camouflage clothing, but they are immediately distinguishable from one another. They use fun settings, and while not entirely original, i.e. you could also find this in something like Battlefield or Call of Duty, they're at least simply laid out so we know where everyone is. But strangely enough, with all this time, and even a lot of stories spent and told in-game, it doesn't feel inconsequential. This is not like a lot of movies which take place in a dream. They wake up and nothing happened. Everything they do in the games matters in the real world, which is pretty unique, and again, has everything to do with the world they create. When episode 7 kicks in, the story gains a lot of momentum, while at the same time, the characters gain a lot of depth. All of the main characters get the proper treatment here, not just Matrix. The Law becomes a much better quote-unquote villain. Before this point, he's just a douche, but now, he actually has motivation, and he enjoys every second of it. Matrix turns out is not only hot, but also pretty smart. Last but not least, Brian finally stops being a coward, and actually does what he should have been doing all along. When you hold the episodes against one another, it's hard to decide which is best. It really depends on what you're looking for. The best comedy is in the 4th and the 6th, the best drama in the 7th, the best action, well, all of them are good at that. Except for episode 8, which is by far the worst. It goes wrong right from the get-go when it starts with a previously on, which is only insulting our intelligence. It's just fixing things, so we can get to the grand finale. The final episodes makes some jumps that would require a bit more explanation, but in this one it's nitpicking. Episode 9 is up there with the better ones. Aside from that 8th episode, it's not like this is making no mistakes. Our main dweeby guy, Brian D, is not all that likable at first. He's a quitter, a coward, becomes careless and sloppy, and his real development for the good doesn't kick in until the 7th episode. There's also a running subplot about the two quirky friends getting together, which feels a bit crowbarred in just to reach feature length. Another quick point, while it is cool to see 400 horsepower machines power sliding along Willow Springs racetrack, this feels like it's just there as an excuse to power slide 400 horsepower machines around Willow Springs Racetrack. One of the quirky friends can get a little annoying at times. The most obvious things are still brought as major plot twists, and they don't always seem to realize when they're stretching a joke which isn't very funny to begin with for too long. That and the accent can get a little hammy at times. The bullies are pretty goofy when they assume the role of bully. When this law guy is just acting normally, he's not that bad, but you just can't take him seriously anymore after that mustache scene. On the other hand, it is entertaining, so I guess you can consider that nitpicking. All in all, VGHS is fun. The world is immersive, the characters feel human, and the action scenes are well put together. And the comedy can be really funny. It's not perfect, but like I said, this was not made on a budget that would shame the US Defense Department. What matters to me a lot more than its so-so story is a very clear sense that the people making it gave it their best shot. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely take some time to check it out. Take from that what you want, and you'll hear from me later.